The Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has said in an interview released on Saturday that Israel's bombardment of Gaza, it runs counter to international law and risks creating a catastrophe that could last decades. Lavrov made the comments, some of Moscow's most critical of Israel yet, in an interview with the Belarusian state news agency Belta.
Gaza is destroyed and 2 million residents are driven out of there, as some politicians in Israel and abroad are suggesting. This will create a catastrophe for many decades, if not centuries. Of course, we need to stop and announce humanitarian program to save the population caught in the siege. There is no water, no electricity, no food, no heat. There is nothing there.
And to discuss this subject in a little detail, we have with us Ambassador Anil Trigunayat, former Indian ambassador to Jordan, well-versed in Middle East affairs. Thank you very much, sir, for being with us. First, when we look at the crisis that's unfolding, it's a humanitarian crisis in Gaza. From a negotiating point of view, how would one move forward to try and get aid into Gaza?
Well, the unfortunate part is that what is happening in the United Nations is quite ridiculous, frankly. I mean, you can look at this problem from two prisms, essentially, either as a historic context of the Palestinian issue, or in the causal connect, means how the Hamas terror groups attacked Israel, and Israel is attacking now or wanting to destroy Hamas. But if you are looking at these binaries, then it is very difficult to arrive at a compromise solution or eventually lead to some kind of a solution for Palestinian state. Now, this is something that we are seeing in the UN Security Council and then in the UNGA, because the resolutions are not taking into account both sides in that sense. And therefore, a leeway is being provided for continuation, conflagration of this particular war. And this is worsening the civilian situation, and this is worsening the strife for the Palestinians in Gaza, and a fear even now among the Israelis. So this kind of a situation is quite terrible. In my view, the both points, whether it is in historic context or a causal connect, they should be taken into account. Both should arrive at this situation that it was Hamas basically which had started it off.
Right, absolutely.
But the main problem is that whatever happens, because see, this is not the first time that these kind of things, wars have happened. There are already this is the fifth one between Hamas and Israel themselves. And there have been this Palestinian thing, and there have been several other previous wars also between the Arab world and this. So now there was a situation where things were moving a little bit better. And I think that we were seeing more of rapprochement in the Middle East. And then this thing has happened, which has put everything on a halt at the moment. But primary thing is eventually is to look after the needs, immediate needs of the besieged population in Gaza, while definitely addressing the genuine concerns of the Israelis. But there is collective punishment is something that is now raising eyebrows across the international community.
Why do you think the UNGA passed this resolution sponsored by Jordan that didn't mention Hamas's attack? After all, you do mention, everyone knows that it was Hamas who attacked first. It was just a simple line that needed to be added, and it would have had the support of everybody. Just to, I mean, what was the reason not to put it in?
Well, unfortunately, the problem is that, they think one man's terrorist, other man's hero. But that is the kind of a situation or mindset that India has always opposed, frankly.
Yes.
And this is what, there has to be a zero-tolerant policy. And this is precisely what our deputy APR in the explanation of the board said, that you cannot just be selective about it. And this was something that the state, why they did not is a situation like this, that there are possibly more than 250 hostages who are also a big lever in this war. If there is a full-scale Gaza offensive begins, then obviously there is a danger to their lives. And Hamas is saying already 50 of the hostages have been killed under the Israeli strikes. So forget about the thousands of
Yes.
Palestinians. Now, that could have been one of the reasons, but I think that this is precisely why, when the Canadians wanted to insert this,
Yes.
condemning these attacks, this could not pass actually. So you can see the global community is vertically divided today. UN Security Council is divided into P3 and P2. And so,
Right.
therefore, one side is you have UK, US, and France. On the other side, you have Russia and China. At the other, and frankly, in this particular UNGA resolution, you will see that the France and UK abstained. France, like France supported that, and US abstained, UK abstained on this. So I think that this is something which is dividing the world now, is that the conscience for the civilian plight, which is coming in the way now.
Right, absolutely. But, we talk about the escalation that's taking place, and we did speak to our correspondent who's on the ground, and it seems to be escalating. It's becoming a regional conflict. Hezbollah is involved. Syria, Iraq are attacking U.S. troops that are stationed to, act as a deterrent. What do you think, is happening there? Would the U.S. get involved to some extent? They place their troops there as a deterrent, and they're coming under attack.
Well, frankly, in a warlike situation, there is nothing like deterrence. Once it happens, it may happen by a mistake. It was said that the Houthis sent some missiles across the U.S. ships and they were intercepted. It happened. Now, USA also, bombed some of the Hezbollah or IRGC, they call it. They have the IRGC stocks in Syria. Lebanon, Hezbollah has been attacking but still not the full front war is opened. And I think that this is something internally most of the countries are worried about. That if it really escalates further, Iran will definitely get dragged into it, and so will the United States. And perforce, Russia and China, you'll be seeing them working on it. China has already brought in 6 of its warships in the Mediterranean. So we are looking at it that each country is trying to, and Russia is it's strongly present in Syria.
Yes.
And they have this port of Tartus and all. So you can have it escalating very fast. Therefore, it is important that these 5 major powers, at the moment at least, try to absolve themselves creditably.
Yes, and Russia is on record also as saying that Israel's bombardment of Gaza is counter to international law. It also risks, making this catastrophe last for decades, is what Lavrov has said. How would you, look at that comment, given the fact that Russia is involved for almost 2 years now in a war in Ukraine?
Well, the problem is that it is very difficult. It's very easy to make statements and very difficult to adhere to the spirit of it. Problem is that the brute power or the superpowers, they draft their own rules everywhere. They say that this was their own security. They say their own security was endangered. They are not looking at Ukraine as as their sort of opposition. If you see, President Putin has also talked about, he said it is not Ukraine which is doing it is the United States. So they are looking at this conflict in the US-Russia context. You see, that's the big difference. So therefore, here, one is seeing that the population and the non-state actor is involved in Hamas, in the form of Hamas. So they are looking at it that Hamas is a non-state actor, number one, and the people of Palestine are being subjected to this kind of a thing. So, of course, Guterres is also gone, and most of the countries have said in the UNGA discussions that humanitarian relief supplies are a must, and they should not be prevented. There should be humanitarian corridor.
Yes.
Refugees should be allowed to leave and all. Now, these are prescribed in the international law. So when that situation does not happen or fructify, so obviously there tend to be some kind of a violation.
Final question, Ambassador Trigunayat. Prime Minister Modi spoke to President Al-Sisi on the phone. Of course, this was the topic of discussion. We are not sure we've got the Egyptian side of what happened. What was the discussion? It was about Egypt playing a more significant role in efforts in the regional, and international efforts to bring about a ceasefire. How do you think this can be worked out?
Well, personally, I've written about it, and I have said that India is the most credible country at the moment, at least until yesterday. So that could play a very significant role. And I'm happy that Prime Minister Modi is talking to, he's spoken to President Abbas of Palestine, supplied humanitarian relief supplies. He's spoken to the Jordanian king, and now he's spoken to Egypt, which is our strategic partner. I was a bit amused when India was not invited for the Cairo summit, which Egypt had done it, because, all the countries which were there, most of them will not be acceptable to one side or the other.
Yes.
And India is one country, so therefore, I believe that discussion, Prime Minister has clearly spoken to him that what is the outcome of that Cairo summit, whether they can move forward, what are the. So I think that Cairo has a unique position because they are the first country which had normalized and signed a peace treaty with Israel in 1979. So they are the ones also, they have been on one side, they have been seizing in a way, enforcing the siege of Gaza for quite some time. On the other side is Israel. So there is a communication between them, and Egypt could play a role. But by itself, I have often talked about it that India could take a lead along with maybe Saudi Arabia, maybe Brazil, maybe Egypt. They are the 3 or 4 countries that can play a much greater role.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Ambassador Anil Trigunayat, for shedding light on the situation in Gaza and the conflict itself and its resolution, if possible.